I'm Dr. Dina McCaffrey, president of Jefferson College, and I've been asked to MC today's presentation. And I'd also like to thank and welcome anyone who will be joining us through live stream STL today. And also the Jefferson County Growth Association, thank you for all your work in putting the legislative forum together. And to get us started, Dan Govero is going to come up and say a few remarks. Dan, do you want to hold or you want it in here?
Welcome this morning. This is a time of year we do every year as the legislators come out from Jeff City and tell us what really went on up there instead of what we hear on the paper. So sometimes it's not always they don't get the
yeah. Not the leader.
Not the leader. But it's good to hear from the legislators and give them a chance to tell us what's going on out there. And so we always try to have this forum and invite them here to talk about what happened out in Jeff City, our Congress out from the United States. So we got people, representatives from all over the place, and we appreciate them coming and putting this on with us. And we want to say the Growth Association is still expanding. If you like what we're doing, please join the association. We always need new members. And we're trying to do a lot of different things. If you haven't seen or been to our Jefferson County Together, it's the one thing we do in this county that we put all 5 chambers together and we have a networking event. And so far we've had like 200 people at every one. So we got another one coming up. Please sign up for it. It's free. So by all means, shop Jefferson County because keep the taxes here. And that supports all our EMTs, our police, our fire, all our roads, and everything with the good federal, our state, our county government. So shop Jefferson County and enjoy the county as it is because we have a lot of things to offer. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. And Dan, thank you for your long-term service to JCGA. You mean a lot to the organization and you keep it going, so we appreciate you. I would also like to thank our sponsors, and you'll probably hear me do this twice today, so just warning you. Alpha Media, KJEF, Compass Health Network, Developmental Disability Advocates, First State Community Bank, Good Earth Tools, Govero Land Services, Jefferson College, Leader Publications, Livestream STL, Living Holistic School and Wellness Center, Maddock Insurance Group, Mercy, Serenity Roofing Solutions, and Sheet Metal Workers Local 36. So thank all of you who helped put this event on. We are going to start with breakfast, so I'm going to let our legislators up here will be speaking. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. The second regular session of the 102nd Missouri General Assembly adjourned for the year on Friday, May 17th. The legislature completed their constitutional duty by approving the state's operating budget for the next fiscal year, which actually commences on July 1st. The $51.7 billion budget is one of the largest in our state's history, and many were in doubt that the legislature would even be able to come to an agreement of a budget this year. There were over 2,500 pieces of legislation filed during the 2024 session, with 46 pieces of legislation making it all the way through the process to final passage. The governor has until July 14th to either sign or veto bills passed during the legislative session. All legislation passed by the General Assembly, if not signed into law by the governor, will become effective on August 28th, or if signed into law, on August 28th of this year, unless the legislation provided for a specific effective date or contained an emergency clause. If the governor fails to sign or veto the bill does become law. Jefferson County is very fortunate to have the dedication and support of each of these legislators. I'm in Jeff City on a regular basis, and each time I visit, they each make time for me and other representatives from Jefferson College to hear from us, but also to listen to us and what our needs are. And not just our needs, meaning Jefferson College, but I work with the Missouri Community College Association And we do that with our federal legislators also, and they too listen to what the needs are in Missouri. Now, to get us started today, we will begin with Senator Elaine Gannon, who represents District 3.
Well, good morning, Jefferson County Growth Association. I want to thank Dr. McCaffrey for hosting this event today. I want to begin with a shout out. And, you know, I've been attending events for 12 years now, and it seems like every time I looked out in the crowd, I would see Rick Francis. And if Rick's listening on the radio, I would just like to say we miss you, and we hope you're enjoying your retirement. Okay. I'm very proud to say that I'm a 1973 graduate of Jefferson College, and I always tell people it was the best 2 years of my life. And one of the best things that happened while I was at Jefferson College was I met my husband, Dennis, outside the biology lecture hall. I always wondered why he was standing there every day when I went to the lecture hall. So anyway, it really did turn out to be a good thing. Dan Govero mentioned believing everything you hear on TV, radio, or what you read in the newspaper about what happened in Jeff City. Well, I'm here to tell you everything you read or heard on TV is true. It was a train wreck in the Missouri Senate. I unfortunately broke my foot the weekend before the last week of Senate of the legislative session, and I was not able to be there, but I tried keeping in touch with different senator friends, but still the bottom line was it was a train wreck. Despite all the filibustering that took place in the Senate this session, we did manage to get some bills across the finish line. I'm going to just talk about a couple of them. The first one, Representative Tim Jones carried and passed in the House, House Bill 1909, and I carried that bill in the Senate, and it passed out of the Senate. Right now, before this bill goes into effect, county and city committee meetings take place in the county seat. So this bill removes the requirement, and those meetings can be held elsewhere. The reason for repealing this requirement is that the statute is outdated. COVID showed that we can just meet anywhere, okay? And the county seat may no longer be the largest city or town in the county. Okay. Another bill I'm going to talk about, I voted against, but it did pass, and there are some good things in the bill, but I still voted no, and that was the Senate Bill 727, carried by Senator Koenig, and it was the school choice bill. This was talked about the entire session and did not make it across the finish line until close to the end of session. School choice was a priority for the Republican Party to get that passed. So this was the year to do it, and they worked hard on it, and I'll just tell you a little bit about it. Let me pull up here. Senate Bill 727 is an essential step in advancing school choice and parental empowerment. Additionally, this legislation further expands the Missouri Empowerment Scholarship Accounts Program, providing more opportunities for families to choose the educational path that best suits their children's needs. This aligns with conservative values of empowering parents to make decisions about their children's education rather than being limited to a one-size-fits-all approach. And what they're referring to on the one-size-fits-all approach is public school education. This legislation also, this is the good part, okay? I like this. This legislation also makes a historic investment in our public education by increasing our teachers' pay. Yay! This would mark the first time in 20 years that we have statutorily raised all teachers' salaries. So pretty, I'm happy about that. But, you know, these other programs, school choice programs, they take money out of money that is allotted for public school education. So that means public school education is going to have less money. But it passed, and I will say that I taught school in DeSoto for 32 years, and I'm not going to turn my back on public school education. And I vote my district, and I have 5 counties in my district, and I cannot name you one school in my district that would support this bill. So, but it did pass, and we're going to move on. Teachers get more money. I think that's wonderful. And, you know, I just think that public school education deserves the best they can get also. Okay, let's see. Let me see here. Okay. Let me get my phone fixed here. And here we go. As most of you know, probably, this is my last year serving in the Missouri Legislature. I served 8 years in the House, and I've just finished 4 years in the Senate. The bottom line for me is it's time for me to be home. And we have 4 grandkids, 2 in Dallas, Texas, and 2 in London, England. And we're going to try and make as many trips, or at least me, Dennis has 2 more years, to spend more time with our grandkids. But really, my heart's at peace. And the bottom line is, as much as I love serving in the Senate, the bottom line is it is just time for me to be home. So I just want to read something to you all. This was one of my Capitol reports. I don't know, I'm not going to read the whole thing. But since I made the decision to not run for a second term in the Missouri Senate, I have been anticipating how it would feel to hear the final gavel of my legislative career. Didn't get to hear it. I missed the whole last week. I am still not sure I have the right words for it, but the sentiment Winnie the Pooh expressed gets pretty close. How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. I am truly blessed, not just because I've had the privilege of serving in the legislature, but the countless friendships and relationships I've formed and been enriched by along the way. As I prepare, this is kind of hard to see, okay. As I prepare to say goodbye, I want to express my deepest appreciation to everyone who traveled to Jeff City to participate in the process. I especially want to thank my 2 families for their unwavering support, both the one I share a name with and the one I share an office with, Heather, Janet, and my colleagues at the Capitol. When I took the Senate oath of office in January 2021, I was one of 11 women senators, a Missouri record in the upper chamber. That grew by following the election in 2022. All right, in 2000, as a freshman senator, I was honored to pass a measure to improve process for workers' compensation and to add a provision to stop the practice in which hospitals are patient boarding children who are wards of the state and have been discharged from medical treatment. In 2021, I was proud to commit to an education and literacy package to get the lead out of school drinking water, enact reading success plan, and permit retired teachers to keep their benefits and return to the classroom. I also ushered legislation across the finish line to designate the second full week of March Pet Breeder Week to honor those who responsibly raise and provide four-legged family members to Missourians. My proudest legislative achievement by far happened on July 6th, 2023, when the governor signed my bill to help new moms. This bill, this bipartisan legislation extended Missouri Health Net coverage for postpartum women from 60 days to 1 full year following the birth of her child, among other provisions. The goals of the new laws are to reduce our state's high maternal mortality rates and give new moms and babies the healthy start they deserve and need. If we want healthy mamas, we have to have healthy babies. And to finish up, more than anything else, I will be forever grateful to the wonderful people who call the 3rd Senatorial District home for entrusting, this is hard to read here, the voice of our, for entrusting me to represent you at the state capitol these past 12 years. Being the voice of our community has been the opportunity of a lifetime. And for your advocacy, input, and inspiration have definitely paved the way for my legislative success. While the final gavel may have fallen on my Senate career, my love for Missouri and dedication to our community will never, never come to a close. And I appreciate your patience with me reading this, but it was real tiny. So, but anyway, thank you to everybody, and I will be replaced by the new senator in January, the beginning of January, so I will continue to be the state senator in District 3 until January 3rd, 4th, 5th, somewhere around in there. So if there's something I can help with, feel free to call me. If you just want to talk, feel free to call me, and I'm going to be happy to be home. Thank you.
Senator Yannon, you are definitely going to be missed. She has been such an advocate for all of Jefferson County, the whole district. And I'm lucky enough that I am on Mercy Jefferson's board. And when the governor came with you to sign that bill that you passed, that meant a lot to all of us at Mercy also. So thank you. And you're reading from your phone. I'm reading in like 16-point type, so I don't have to wear my glasses. So I can appreciate that. Next up, we have Representative Cindy Buckeye Courtway, who represents District 115.
Mine's an 18 font, and I still need these. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank Jefferson College, which is my favorite college because I did graduate from Jefferson College as well, for once again hosting the legislative update. My name is Cindy Buckeye Courtway, and I'm a state representative for District 115, which is the lower part of the county. I do want to start by thanking Senator Gannon for all of her hard work over the last 12 years. It's been an honor to serve with her the last 4, and you are correct, she is definitely going to be missed. I am in my second term, and I have truly loved serving the people of the district. Thank you to all of my constituents for your trust and confidence in voting me in twice as your representative. Representative Ken Waller, as many of you know, was unable to attend today. He had a minor surgery yesterday and must take it easy for a few days. As he is unable to attend to say a few words, I will say a few words on his behalf at his request. As you know, Ken has been involved in local government for many years, and last session he took the leap to run for the House. One thing you always hear in the House is that freshmen are meant to sit back and listen to what is going around them, take it all in, and wait to speak up until after that freshman year. This has not been easy for Ken. However, he is currently preparing legislation to file in the upcoming year, and he's excited to get back to work. He sits right behind me on the House floor, and we were discussing legislation all the time on the floor and how it would affect Jefferson County. It has been a great experience the last 2 years with him there. This session has been different than most, although I did not have very much hope when I saw how many House and Senate members were running for higher up offices and knowing just how important of an election year we would be in. We passed 28 bills beside budget bills. 28. This is the least amount of bills passed in a very long time. Some may argue that less is more, and sometimes I would agree with that. However, in this instance, we left some very good legislation on the floor and in committees. We did have some good things come out of the budget this year. I lobbied for and was able to work with Cody Smith, the House Budget Chair, to put $1 million for the train depot in DeSoto into the budget, and I'm proud to say it's on its way to the governor's desk to be signed. We were able to reauthorize funding for our port infrastructure, as well as the infrastructure funds for the James Hardy project. And as a result of many people's efforts, we have now seen the beginning of the $240 million I-55 expansion project right here at home. We as a state are making a major investment to reskill, upskill, and train next generation workers. This includes additional funding for job training, workforce career tech centers, apprenticeships, and other programs to get Missourians good paying jobs. $100 million was allotted again for rural road improvements, $1.5 billion for broadband expansion, and I'm happy to say we are seeing broadband expansion in rural Jefferson County and very many unserved and underserved areas. We also funded 16 different projects to expand commerce through Missouri ports and waterways. We all remember that last year we fully funded I-70. This year's budget includes another $728 million to improve I-44. All of these things make my heart so happy, as I have been honored to be the chair of Transportation Infrastructure Committee the last 2 years, and I have fought hard and supported efforts to improve and enhance our infrastructure in the state and also right here in Jefferson County. I want to talk to you today about some of the legislation that didn't get through, because I'm sure others here will be discussing what did, and I'm sure you really don't want to hear it repeated over and over and over again. House Bill 2471 would modify provisions governing mental health efforts in schools. Our children are harming themselves and killing themselves at an alarming rate. My bill would have schools start teaching about mental health awareness in 5th grade and suicide awareness in 6th, versus high school, where it is now discussed with students. I spoke to several experts on this topic. I spoke to a couple of local schools, also Aspen, Chestnut, grandparents, parents, and young adults. And we came up with some amazing language. We had so many come up to testify in the hearing in the House. School officials, Jackie with Aspen, Jim with Chestnut, 2 grandmothers, one who lost her grandson to suicide, and one whose grandchild tried to take their life, but thankfully was found and didn't end up dying. There was also a young lady who recently graduated, but while in high school at Hillsborough, had to cope with 4 classmates who committed suicide in 1 year. When will we say enough is enough? I was also the sponsor of a bill, House Bill 2797, that would have named many highways and bridges after heroes. These heroes include fallen veterans, POWs, fallen police officers. One in particular, my hero bill was crafted for, Officer Lane Burns. Officer Burns was dispatched to a call in Bonne Terre at a motel, and as he and his partner arrived, they were immediately fired upon. Both of them were struck. As Officer Burns lay dying and his partner seriously wounded, both of these heroes shot and struck and killed the perpetrator. Unfortunately, Officer Burns was killed that day, March 17th, 2022. This bill passed the House 150-0. It had a Senate hearing. It was voted out of committee. And then, like so many other good bills, it died in the Senate. House Bill 2352 was a Waterways Trust Fund bill that would clean up a few items that needs addressed, impacting Jefferson County and other ports. This bill had great success on the House side. With a vote of 144-0 in the House, it was sent to the Senate. We had a Senate hearing. Again, it died in the Senate. Train wreck. These are just three of the bills that unfortunately did not make it across the finish line due to inaction by the Senate. Folks, we need to ensure that the right people are put in office. And it definitely was not Senator Gannon's fault. These three bills, like so many other pieces of legislation, were not deemed a priority by leadership. We need to work on taking care of Missourians. We are elected to serve the people. The people deserve to be heard. It's unfortunate that in the last several years, the politics in Jefferson City, in many instances, has not been about the people at all. This has led to a void in leadership on many occasions. Before I conclude, I want to thank all the members of the Jefferson County delegation in the House and the Senate. It has been a pleasure and honor to have worked with Senators Elaine Gannon and Mary Elizabeth Coleman, and Representatives Phil Amato, Gary Bonaker, David Castile, Renee Reuter, and Ken Waller. I am committed to moving forward and producing positive results for our citizens. I will continue to strive to focus on issues, not personalities. We have a great state with vast resources, but our most important resource is our citizens. I am convinced we can accomplish more, and I ask for your support and blessings to continue fighting for our voices to be heard as the next Senator of District 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Buckeye Courtway. Next, we have Representative Phil Amato, District 113.
Good morning, everyone. If you looked up the definition of class in the dictionary, I assure you that the picture you would see by the definition of the word would be Senator Elaine Gannon and Representative Cindy Buckeye Courtway. These two ladies, when they walk around the Capitol, they adhere respect. Everybody knows they're from Jefferson County, and it has been a pleasure serving with both of these ladies, and I wish them good luck. Now, what I want to talk about a little bit is not just what happened in this session, but what happened in this term. Going to Jefferson City, I promised the people of my district two things. One would be I would not be parochial and just look at the town that I lived in. I would look at Jefferson County as a whole. And the second thing is I would swing for the fences and hope and pray that I would hit one out. When you serve in any capacity, whether it's local or the county or state level, very seldom do you get a chance to work on something that will pay dividends for generations to come. This delegation of Jefferson County did that in this last term that I'm just finishing up, and that is the port. We saved the money for the port. Just to get the money, $25 million in a port, is tough to get into a state budget. But when there was a train wreck and there was problems with the spending of it and you had to hold it a second year, that is almost impossible. And with Cindy leading the charge, because she was the only experienced person in the House, the rest of us were all freshmen, we got together and figured out how in the world are we going to hold that $25 million in the port budget. We did, and that will pay dividends for Jefferson County for generations to come, and I'm really proud of the delegation that I served with on that particular item. I'm going to preface a second remark because I know that County Executive Dennis Gannon and David Courtway did a lot of the heavy lifting, as did a lot of people from Crystal City, including my friend Tony Becker. But James Hardy Siding. James Hardy wanted to come to Jefferson County, and they wanted to make an investment of $1.5 billion for the first phase. And if phase one is successful, there's another $500 million. That's when I was a kid. Pittsburgh Plate Glass was the big employer in Crystal City. This will dwarf what Pittsburgh Plate Glass did when I was a kid. $1 billion investment, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years. What was the holdup? The deal breaker was the road. There was a road, they needed to redo this road because they could not and they would not take trucks past the hospital all day long. The entire Jefferson County delegation, with Senator Gannon included, we all went to dinner. We sat down, we figured out what do we need to be able to close this deal. Because, like I said, everybody else had done most of the heavy lifting, but this was the final piece of the puzzle, how to get it to the finish line. We needed $12.5 million to finish that road. We had an appointment with the budget chair, and we went in as the House side, as a collective unit. Cindy Buckeye Courtway is chairman, as she said already, of transportation, so who better to pitch the amount of money that we needed than the budget chair of transportation. We pitched it to Cody Smith, which is from Jasper County and the head of budget for the last 6 years. He looked at all of us and he said, "This is what you all want?" And we all shook our head in unison and said yes. And he said, "Okay." He said, "The only thing I need to find out who's going to make sure that when the road is done, that who's going to maintain the road." And Cindy said, "I'll make a call to Jefferson County Courthouse today, and I'll get you that information before day's end." And she did, and by golly, that opened up the door. And ladies and gentlemen, James Hardy Siding is coming to Jefferson County with $500 million in their checkbook, and we're all pleased about that. Now, for this session, as Representative Courtway said, as you're a freshman, you don't really are expected to sponsor any bills. You're expected to sit back and kind of watch, but that's not been my MO over the years, so I wanted to make sure I went down and tried to make a difference, because I had promised the people that I served with, as I said, the two things. One, I wouldn't be parochial in my thinking, so when I talked about Jefferson County problems, we talked about it as a whole, which we did on James Hardy and we did on the port, but I also wanted to swing for the fences. So I sponsored some legislation. You're going to hear a lot of different numbers up here on bills that passed or didn't pass, but the numbers that I saw, when you take the budget bills out of the equation, what passed the House of Representatives and went to the governor's desk was 13 bills. 13 bills. How many bills were offered up? 1,684 bills. 1,684 bills, and 13 House bills got to the finish line, that in front of the governor's desk that he'll be looking at to sign, and one of those 13 bills was a freshman from Arnold, Missouri, and I'm so grateful for that. The bill that I sponsored is affectionately called the Squatters Bill, and it's about trespassers on private property. So if you have a condo at Lake of the Ozarks, or you have a condo in Florida, and somebody calls you and says, "Hey, did you give permission for this person to be staying in your condo?" That's what they're doing. That's just a fraction of what the problem that we have in Missouri for squatters and the trespassers that we have. This is a nationwide epidemic, and it seems like it's been amplified in the last 3 to 4 years. I don't know if COVID had anything to do with it, but it seems to be a massive problem. It was brought to a head in Florida. Florida passed a piece of legislation that was passed unanimously by the House and the Senate, which is as you can see, is unheard of because with the problems that we have in our legislative bodies. But it was passed unanimously, and it made national news. I took that bill and modeled the Missouri piece of legislation as close to Florida as I could. The added caveat that we put in this piece of legislation is we tied it to the ex parte. So right now, if you call the police department of any jurisdiction and you say, I have somebody squatting in my house, it's either I'm on vacation and it happened, or it's a rental piece of property, the police show up at the house, and the first thing they do is they ask the person, why are you here? And they give them some kind of line, well, I'm authorized to be here, or I have a lease, but it's not with me. Then 9 times out of 10, law enforcement will say this is a civil matter and turn around and say you need to contact your attorney. And so then it costs thousands of dollars in an inordinate period of time to go through the court system to get this done. This piece of legislation, when the governor signs it, will, in 48 hours, the police will come to the house. They will say, you need to leave, and you need to leave now. I have a court order signed by a judge. If you think this has been an error, there's a court system that you'll be able to appeal the decision to, but right now you need to leave. And I was receiving emails and letters from all over the state giving me horror stories of what this problem has been in the state of Missouri. We have been on radio. I guess Hubbard Radio interviewed me, which owns 50% of the airways minus KMOX, and they put it on What's Going On Around Town, a program, and shot it out to all the radio stations. Like I said, they own 50% of the airways. Right when I left the Capitol, the Kansas City Star wanted to interview about the legislation. Representative Justin Hicks was on the television program This Week in Missouri Politics, and he made sure he gave a shout out. At the very end of session, the speaker was asked, are you satisfied with the legislation that was passed in this term? Naturally, he was not. He, like the rest of us, wanted really good bills that had died to get to the finish line, but he said, one bill that did get there is on veteran suicide that was introduced by Representative Dave Griffith, and Dave Griffith was standing on the front row with him with the press conference. I was all the way in the back as a freshman, stuffed with about 50 of us there waiting for the thing, and he said, and then the press asked, was there any other piece of legislation noteworthy that you can remember? And he said, yeah. He said the squatters bill that Representative Amato passed and got introduced in Arnold, Missouri. So I appreciate coming today. The vote on the squatters bill was bipartisan. It was 145 to 1 nay, to 3 voting present. So bipartisan, I think that's what everybody's looking for finally for people to get along and get together, which is one of the problems that I see up there. I'm killing everybody with kindness and trying to be as kind to everybody as I can, and it's paying off, and I appreciate it, and thank you for the invitation for today.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Representative Gary Bonacker from District 111.
Good morning, everyone. It's really nice to be here. I'm thankful for the invite for this. As a freshman, someone who wasn't really involved with the big level government, county government, state government, or even federal government, I got up there to Jeff City last year, January, first part of January, and I thought to myself, so what am I going to do? So I did a lot of listening and learning, as some of the freshmen are told to do. It was intriguing to watch the drama that swirled around me both last session and this past session with the election coming up and all the shuffling around that was going to happen. So I just tried to figure it out. I had a couple bills that I presented in committee that didn't get anywhere. They were consent bills. We didn't even do a consent bill day where consent bills would go through in one big swift package. That didn't happen. I guess I'm going to say comment a little more on Senator Gannon's comment about how bad it was up there. It was even worse than that. Navigating the drama, the personalities, everything that had to happen to get what you wanted done doesn't really fit my MO so much. But I'm going to take another piece from Ken Waller. Is that it was my friend have commented about me being quiet so long. That may change as well. It's time that we start looking at the people and what they want, and not what the elected officials or those lobbyists need to have done. But anyway, I guess I want to make sure I congratulate Senator Gannon on her retirement and wish her luck. I can't wait. Same with Representative Buckeye Courtway. Wish her the best luck in her future. And those of us that are still sitting here and they're going to do it again in the House of Representatives, that I hope we go back as a band. We have a pretty good tight-knit group from Jefferson County there. We work well together. I think we can get some things done for the Jefferson County area, not just the state of Missouri, if we can stay together and work together and get through the jungle. Since I'm not going to repeat anything else that anyone else said, and I didn't get anything done, I'll just promise I'm going to try even more next time. And I think I have found some pathways to get some things done. Getting past the Senate is the big issue there. The House is pretty easy. Getting past the Senate is the big issue. So I thank you for allowing me to come in here and speak. Thank you.
Next, we have Representative Renee Reuter from District 112.
Good morning, everyone. So nice to be here. Let me just start by saying probably one of the most famous sons of Missouri was Mark Twain, and he always said, "Laws are like sausages. It's always better not to see them being made." This was exactly what was probably the truth for this session. It was a very, very difficult session for legislation. But let me talk a little bit about the things that I was doing in the past year. First, I serve on the Budget Committee. And the Budget Committee, just to give you an idea, there's about 35 of us on that committee. And we get very close to each other because we serve, we have a lot of hearings, probably more hearings than any other committee. And so there was one stretch of hearings that we had that was 6 weeks long. We met every single day for 2 hours at least. And that's just going over the past budget, going over the proposed budget, deciding what we wanted to change, trying to argue between what should be changed, what shouldn't be changed. And it was very lively, especially during an election year. And it was a lot of fun to sit there and drink it all in and understand all the intricacies and how they work together. And it was, to kind of give you a visual, I was on the county council for 12 years before I came to the state. And we have a budget, and it took us 2 days to go through the hearings. And the paper documents that we reviewed were about this thick, about maybe 2 inches thick. We get to the state level, if I stacked all those things up, if I was able to stack them and they didn't fall over, it would be as tall as I am. And I'm not kidding. And at some point, as we go through the summer, I'll bring all those suckers home and I'll reel them in so you can see. It's incredible how much information is reviewed and discussed before the budget goes to the House floor for consideration. And then to top things off, after we did all of that, the last week of session we had a hearing. I thought, well, this is strange. The budget's already gone through. Why would we need another budget hearing? Well, this was with one of the administrative offices, and they were talking about tax credits. And we have a pretty big budget for tax credits in certain areas, and this one was to entice, new businesses to come in, new projects and things like that. And that committee, or that bureaucratic organization had overspent by $4 million. So they had a budget of, whatever the budget was, but then they spent $4 million more. Now, where does that money come from? And we had this really strong conversation with them about, we have a budget, why did you not follow the budget? And their response was, we follow the statute. Well, just because I can spend money doesn't mean that, if I don't have the money, I don't have the money. It was just odd. It was so strange. And a lot of the legislators were just flabbergasted. I was flabbergasted. So there will be legislation next year to change that statute since it's so important. So that was the last week of session. One of the things that I came in this year wanting to do is to find money to build a new courthouse for Jefferson County. Jefferson County's courthouse is in a state of disrepair. It's not that the county can't fix it, it's the building itself is starting to crumble. This thing was built and opened right after the Civil War. Think about that. I mean, the rocks that are the base for some of the parts of the courthouse are literally crumbling. So we absolutely need a new courthouse. It's a really expensive project, and we've got to find money for it. So I introduced a piece of legislation that would create kind of a user fee. So if you wanted to file a civil case in our court, you would pay an extra $45. And some people said, oh, that seems like a lot of money. Well, I happen to be a lawyer, and whenever we were preparing lawsuits for our clients, typically that can cost $10,000. $45 is going to break somebody, and if they're really that determined to file a lawsuit, they're going to pay it. So I'm going to bring that bill back next year. I'm going to keep pushing for that. And I got to tell you, one of the things that was so shocking to me when I got to Jefferson City, and Ken Waller and I, we served together in the county government for many years. And he and I were talking one day, listening to some of the arguments on the floor. And he says to me, Renee, when we used to want to get something passed, it would take us a couple months to put it together and put it on in front of a vote. What's going on here? Because we had legislators, like senior legislators would be standing up saying, I've introduced this bill for 7 years, and it's never gotten passed. That never happened. We never talked about the same thing for 7 years on the county council. And so just to kind of give you an idea, we have to look at the long game here. We're not running a sprint, we're running a marathon, but I'm sure we can get there. Because it was so difficult for us to get legislation through this year, the thing that I'm most proud of that I was able to accomplish was, it's a difficult atmosphere in Jefferson City for women legislators. And I'm sure that if you talk to Senator Gannon and Representative Buckeye Courtway, they would probably agree with me. And there was a visual representation of that inside of our floor, on the floor room. And we've only had one Speaker of the House in the entire over 200-year existence of our legislature. One woman has been Speaker of the House. And so there's a tradition that every speaker, when they leave, there's a photograph that's put up of them in the House on the floor. The picture of the only woman who'd ever been the speaker was hidden behind a lamp. The only woman, and it had been there for 16 years. So for me, that was not acceptable. So I brought it up to several people who had the opportunity and the power to move it, and they really didn't agree with me. And so, and as you've heard for a couple of the legislators say, they want the freshmen to sit down and shut up the first year. Well, this year there were a bunch of women that had come out to lobby, a lot of women in the House, and they were sitting in the gallery. It happened to be in the month of March. The month of March is Women's History Month. So I got up and gave a little speech about Catherine Hanaway, the first speaker who was a woman in our state. And at the end of that speech, I looked directly at the speaker and I said, Mr. Speaker, move the lamp. Take down that lamp. And I got two other freshman legislators who were women to do the same thing exactly after I did it. So there were 3 people in a row that asked the speaker to take that lamp down because it was so disrespectful. And I got to tell you, that's all it took. So sometimes sometimes you just gotta go there. You just gotta say the thing that everybody wants to say and doesn't want to be the one to do it. So I did that. Her picture was moved, so it's no longer behind the lamp. And so any woman that comes to visit our house floor will now see the first speaker of the House as she looks around the room. So I'm very proud of that. Thank you. And the other thing I did this year was I did my first district day, and I invited a lot of people from my district, and we probably had 30 people that came up and gave them a tour. We got to show them what we do and how we do it, answer questions. They got to meet with the speaker and the floor leader and Secretary of State. It was a really nice day, and I plan on doing that every year and trying to expand it as I can. So be looking for that next year as we go. And back to my friend Mark Twain. He said, and this is very, very interesting for this year, for this session. He says, "No man's life, liberty, or property are safe while the legislature is in session." They were very safe this year. It's good to be home. It's good to see all of you again. Trying to get back into the swing of being home now for a couple of months. And if you need me, please give me a call. I'm happy to help any way I can. I'm trying to figure out what my next year's worth of priorities will be for legislation, in addition to my courthouse bill. And I'm happy to talk with anyone at any time. So thank you so much.
Again, like I've said, we have great legislators in Missouri that, and from Jefferson County representing us at the state capitol. So thank you all very much. We're now going to move on to our federal representatives and legislators that represent Jefferson County, but also Missouri. And we're going to start with our Deputy District Director for U.S. Senator Josh Hawley, and that's Madeline Castle.
Thank you, Dr. McCaffrey. It's great to be here with all of you this morning. I will just touch on a few of Senator Hawley's priorities, specifically regarding the importance of America's supply chain and protecting American workers. It's time for Congress to enact new measures to bring critical supply chains back to this country from China and elsewhere, and to encourage domestic production. We have witnessed a huge fault in our supply chain. We just don't make many critical products here in America anymore, and that's a threat to our economy and our national security. Americans, you and I, we've long known about this problem, but Washington, D.C. is just waking up to it. It's time to fix this. We need to invest in America again and protect our workers. The goal is simple. If we need it, we should make it. Senator Hawley has introduced legislation to do just this, and hopefully the rest of Congress will soon follow suit. Likewise, Senator Hawley has introduced the Protecting American Auto Workers from China Act, new legislation to counter the threat posed to the U.S. auto industry by by raising tariffs on autos imported from China and closing the back door that Chinese automakers are currently using to evade U.S. trade laws. Senator Hawley has been clear: we must put American workers first, we must bring jobs back to American soil, and we must reject radical climate mandates that are making China rich and America poor. As I finish, I just want to touch on the Department of Justice and share with you some of Senator Hawley's thoughts on that. We know the Biden administration has weaponized the Department of Justice. This administration will watch people get executed on our streets and do nothing. They will watch fentanyl destroy communities across our state and nation and do nothing. But if you're a parent or a pro-life demonstrator or a churchgoer, the Department of Justice will come after you. Senator Hawley has said that at a minimum, Attorney General Merrick Garland must resign or be impeached, FBI Director Christopher Wray must be removed from office, and the FBI reformed top to bottom. This has made clear that we have deep, deep corruption in our federal government, and Senator Hawley is focused and committed on rooting it out. As always, please don't hesitate to reach out. Give us a call if our office can be of any assistance to you. If you have legislative concerns you'd like to discuss or casework issues we can be of help with, we are here to serve you, and it is our privilege to do so. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Brad Green, Deputy State Director for U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt.
As she said, I'm Brad Green, Deputy State Director for Senator Schmidt. Honored to be here to address you all on behalf of Senator Schmidt today. I want to thank the Jefferson County Growth Association, our members, our fellow elected officials, and everyone that's here today. You all drive Jefferson County, and Senator Schmidt is very proud to represent you in this dynamic county. I know a lot of people have done this already, but I would be remiss if I didn't take a personal minute to acknowledge Senator Gannon, who I've gotten to know very well over the several years in the state legislature. She served this county and this district well, and I know you'll be missed in Jefferson City. I don't know exactly that feeling is going to be reciprocated on your end, but I just want to take a moment and thank you for your service. So, yeah. Since taking office, Senator Schmidt is combating the burdensome administrative state by taking back decision-making authority from unchecked agencies that enact rules and regulations that end up harming our economy, our families, our businesses, our farms. He's also working to reform the way Washington spends your money and bring back accountability to the system by demanding individual appropriation bills be truly deliberated and not simply just bringing up a massive spending omnibus bill by just coming up, putting everything into a massive pot and voting on them just because that's how things have always been done. We understand there are deadlines. These are also your dollars. We have to consider that, and accountability is key. In that regard, he's co-sponsored the REINS Act, which requires Congress to approve any regulation that is expected to affect the economy by over $100 million nationwide or cause a major increase in consumer pricing. As a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Senator Schmidt marshals his efforts to ensure the safety of Americans domestically and abroad by strengthening our armed services and improving the quality of life for service members and their families. He was a major contributor and author of the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, securing several amendments aimed at confronting divisive DEI politics in the military, bringing funding to Missouri's military institutions, and ensuring preparedness and cybersecurity against our global adversaries. He's also sponsoring the Military Spouse Job Continuity Act, which will reimburse service members' families for relicensing and business costs when they have to move from state to state in service of our nation. Inspired by his son, Stephen, Senator Schmidt strongly believes that those with disabilities deserve the best care possible, and that families with those intellectual disabilities aren't always aware of the resources that are available to them within the state and across the country. To that end, Senator Schmidt is introducing the Think Differently Database Act. It's a bipartisan piece of legislation, creates an online database for federal and state resources available to those with intellectual disabilities. This will provide a new level of connectivity between individuals, families, and caregivers with healthcare, mental health, and other community-based services within the state Medicaid program. Outside of his legislative accomplishments for the state, I want to highlight our constituent service program here at home. Since taking office, we have opened and closed several thousand constituent cases ranging from Veterans Affairs to tax refund issues that have brought back several $1 million back to Missourians. That work is incredibly important to us and something that our office prides itself on. Outside of that, we also have our field representatives, one of which is here today. His name is Chris Walker. We have several around the state, and I think to date, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, we've had about 3,000 meetings around the state between all of our field representatives. It's very important to us and the senator that we get out and meet with all of our constituents to make sure that your voices are heard and that your issues are reflected in DC and from our office. Please reach out to us. We're always available. We're here in the St. Louis office, but we're here for you. You guys are Missourians, and we work for you. Thank you, guys.
Next, we have Jennifer Meyer, District Office Director for Congressman Blaine Luke DeMeyer of District 3.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me in to speak on behalf of the Congressman today. I just wanted to highlight a few pieces of legislation that the Congressman has done over the last few months. He voted yes on the central bank digital currency Anti-Surveillance Act, which this legislation provides or prohibits the Federal Reserve from issuing a surveillance-style central bank currency. In 2022, the Biden administration has started looking into this type of surveillance, and the congressman is very much against it, as countries such as China is doing this to their citizens. He also voted yes on the Israel Security Assistance Support Act, which affirms the U.S. commitment to Israel in getting them the weapons they need, especially after the pause that the administration has done recently. So he wants to continue his commitment to Israel. He also voted yes on the Detain and Deport Illegal Aliens Who Assault Cops Act. 4.7 million illegals have been released into the country, 1.8 known are gotaways, and they are assaulting our officers and getting released. This would include dangerous individuals who are committing crimes and then assaulting our officers who are protecting our cities. In April, the congressman introduced legislation to make small business regulations more transparent. This would force federal agencies to identify the number of small businesses that would be affected by these regulations. He also co-sponsored the Congressional Review Act in opposition to the EPA's recently finalized power plant rule, which combines multiple new rules to coal and natural gas-fired power plants. Finally, last week, he co-signed a bill that would, to the FAA administrator, that would expressing strong support to Lambert St. Louis Airport for their improvement plans. They have a lot of upgrades. There's some old buildings, 70-year-old buildings that will be getting replaced, and it's going to be very beneficial for our area. Please feel free to reach out. The congressman is working hard through the end of his term in early January. So, Senator Gannon, look forward to working with you, and congratulations on your retirement. And State Representative Ruber, thank you for what you did for Catherine. She was a mentor to me when I was 19 years old, and I think I stayed in politics because of her. So thank you very much. All right.
Congressman Luke DeMeyer will definitely be missed for the state of Missouri. He's been a great advocate for us for many years. And I think, like Senator Gannon, from what I was told, it was a grandchild. It's never the children. It's the grandchildren that make that decision for you. And that family is so important, which is great, which is one of those Missouri values that I think we all have. So next we have Donna Smith, and she's the district director for Congressman Jason Smith, who represents the District 8, but is also the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. So thank you, Donna.
That's all right. That's all right. Good morning. It is my great privilege to be here today to represent 8th District Congressman Jason Smith. This year, through redistricting, Congressman Smith represents about 147,000 more folks in Jefferson County than he did before. It is the congressman's goal to get to know as many of them as possible in his new area, the area that he represents, from Festus to Herculaneum to Barnhart to Peevely, to Imperial, and to Arnold. To that end, he continues to visit the companies that drive the economy here and host roundtables with the people who help to make Jefferson County a better place to live. As many of you know, and as Dr. McCaffrey mentioned, Congressman Smith is chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, one of the most powerful committees in all of Congress. The committee has jurisdiction over all taxes, all trade and tariffs, health care and Medicare, Social Security, and many of our nation's welfare programs. Already this year, Jason led the committee in passing pro-family, pro-worker, pro-small business, and pro-America tax reform through the House of Representatives. Congressman Smith also authored a trade package that will ensure farmers have access to markets in developing countries. This package also restricts a loophole that companies in China are using to flood America with cheap imports. Jason is also preparing his colleagues for what's coming on taxes. Recently, President Biden announced on Twitter, or X, that his goal is to let all of President Trump's 2017 tax cuts expire at the end of 2025. And if that happens, it would be the largest tax increase in American history at $4 trillion. And every American, regardless of income, would see his or her taxes go up. To help build the Ways and Means Committee's policies, Jason is trying something new and innovative. He is taking the committee outside of D.C. and holding hearings all across America. This allows real Americans to share their experiences with Congress. Last year, he held committee hearings in places like Petersburg, West Virginia, Yukon, Oklahoma, Peachtree City, Georgia, Kimball, Minnesota, and Denton, Texas. The stories Congressman Smith hears at these hearings mimic much of what he's heard from the people of the 8th District. Working moms tell how they struggle to afford groceries. Small business owners lament how they must raise prices to keep up with soaring inflation. Farmers tell how they've been hurt by this administration's inaction on trade, and there are so many other stories. Because Jason is from rural America, he is prioritizing the voices and priorities of rural Americans, and that's causing quite a stir in Washington. But he isn't going to change who he is and who he fights for just because he's chairman of a big committee. He is just reestablishing congressional priorities to be in line with the people of the 8th District. Casework continues to be a priority for Team Smith. The staff in our 5 8th District offices are working over 500 cases today, helping our constituents get answers to the issues they have with federal agencies like Social Security, the IRS, and the VA. Jefferson County folks are served through the Farmington office, where I am located, where we are currently working more than 100 cases for people seeking information on everything from their tax refunds to their passports and their visa applications. I want you to know that your federal offices work very well with your state reps, and I want to give my own shout out to Senator Gannon. We will miss you, but we know we can count on your expertise as well as the expertise of all of our state legislators in order to work more effectively for you at the federal and the state level. It is an honor for Congressman Smith to represent you as a member of Congress. And to find out more about him and his work on your behalf, visit jasonsmith.house.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna Hickman. Sorry, I said you're wrong. I'm reading my notes and not great there. But I really appreciate you, all of you here today. I would like to again thank our sponsors, Alpha Media, KJF 1400 AM, Compass Health Network, Developmental Disabilities Advocates, First State Community Bank, Good Earth Tools, Govero Land Services, Jefferson College, Leader Publications, Living Holistic School and Wellness Center, Maddock Insurance Group, Mercy, Serenity Roofing Solutions, Sheet Metal Workers, Local 36, and a special thanks to Livestream STL for streaming this today. The live stream is being recorded, and it will be shared out on multiple social media channels through Jefferson College, I think the EDC, JCGA. So if you see that, feel free to share it with others, because I think there was a lot of good information given today. Our legislators are very busy. They're home, but they're still really busy. So I just want to say one more time, thank you all for being here and for representing Jefferson County and Missouri so well in your jobs. Thanks again, and everyone have a great day.